The Celtics, who once looked like an unstoppable force on their way to back-to-back titles, are now facing their harshest offseason in years. Forget everything you thought you knew about this team. That dominant regular season, meaningless. That roster depth, exposed. And worst of all, that one player everything revolved around, gone. Tatum's injury doesn't just sideline a superstar. It pulls the entire Celtics ecosystem into chaos. And while insiders whisper about a possible postseason return, let's not sugarcoat it. There's a very real chance Boston won't even be in the playoffs without him. Do you really believe Jaylen Brown, as brilliant and explosive as he's been, can carry this roster through a full season in a loaded East without another all-NBA talent next to him? And don't say Porzingis unless you're willing to bet on a guy who faded in the playoffs. Again, after a strong but incomplete regular season, plagued by injuries and mystery illnesses. That's why the number 28 pick suddenly matters, more than anyone expected. This is no longer a luxury, it's a lifeline. Boston has always believed in internal development, cap flexibility, and the culture. But that mindset doesn't win when your best player might not play a single regular season game. So here's the hard truth. They have to trade the pick, and not just trade it, use it aggressively, ruthlessly, like a team that knows the clock is ticking louder than ever. Which brings us to a name no one's talking about. Nick Richards. Not flashy, not a star, but exactly what the Celtics need to avoid total collapse. Let's dig into the numbers. Richards posted 9.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 1 block per game, while shooting an efficient 59% from the field, all in limited minutes across 2 teams. That's solid production, but here's what's being overlooked. He does the one thing Boston desperately lacks without Tatum: stabilize the interior defense and bring physicality in the paint. Porzingis is a perimeter big. Horford is aging. Cornet? A question mark. Richards gives you a reliable body who can clog lanes, rebound with authority, and give Boston a second chance at playing big, literally and metaphorically. Is he the next Kevin Garnett? Of course not, but you don't need that. You need someone who can help Drew Holiday and Derek White funnel traffic into a shot-blocking wall. Someone who lets Porzingis slide back into his more natural stretch-four role. Someone who doesn't disappear when the game gets messy. And Richards is that guy. Giving up Peyton Pritchard will sting, no doubt. He's beloved by fans, trusted by the locker room, and has carved out his niche as a microwave scorer off the bench. But let's be honest. Does he move the needle when Tatum is out? Pritchard's impact is tied directly to playing alongside stars. Without that gravity, his limitations surface fast. He's not a lead playmaker. He's not a plus defender. He's a role player with a very specific function. And right now, Boston needs more than that. They need survival tools, defensive grit, size. Richards offers what Pritchard doesn't: resilience in the trenches. Look, we all love potential, but let's not pretend the 28th pick is going to land the next Tyrese Maxey. The hit rate in that range is abysmally low. And even if the Celtics found a diamond in the rough, how soon could he contribute? Not this season, not under these circumstances. Richards, on the other hand, gives you production right now. He's under contract. He fits the system. He adds size and flexibility to a roster starved for both. So what are we even debating here? And here's where things get really interesting. What if this trade is just a setup, a quiet move that leads to something bigger? Think about it. Bringing in Richards could allow the Celtics to explore bigger moves involving Al Horford or even Malcolm Brogdon. It opens up positional clarity. It changes rotations. It forces other teams to reevaluate Boston as a threat again. Here's a take that might get me torched in the comments. Boston shouldn't try to win the title this year. Not without Tatum. Instead, they should focus on building continuity, experimenting with depth, and preparing for 100% healthy Tatum in 2026. Think of this as the Spurs' strategy with Tim Duncan in 1997. Remember how that turned out? The number 28 pick should be used not for glory today, but to quietly position the Celtics for sustained dominance tomorrow. And Nick Richards? He might not be the centerpiece of that plan, but he could be the first brick in the rebuild of a dynasty in danger. Would the Celtics dare help the Knicks just to save themselves? At first glance, this trade proposal sounds absurd. Trading with a rival, handing New York a playoff weapon like Peyton Pritchard. But what if I told you that this risky, almost unthinkable move could be the one that prevents Boston's collapse in a post-Tatum world? Let's talk about Precious Achiuwa, a player most fans have already dismissed, yet one who might secretly be the insurance policy the Celtics don't realize they desperately need. Nick Richards might be the headline target, but Richards is a classic safe move, plug and play, traditional big. Achiuwa, he's the chaos agent, the unpredictable X-factor, the kind of player who could either flame out or quietly transform the identity of a team drifting into uncertainty. Yes, he's a restricted free agent. Yes, his numbers dipped last season, but you don't pursue Precious for his stats. You pursue him for his versatility, his upside, and the fact that his game, when unleashed, doesn't follow predictable patterns. He's the kind of wild card that championship teams stumble into and suddenly can't live without. There's a reason most front offices avoid trading within the division. Optics, ego, fear of being the team that helped the enemy. But you know what wins rings? Courage, creativity, cold-blooded calculation. The Celtics can't afford pride right now, not with Jason Tatum's status hanging by a thread and their once dominant rotation looking thinner by the week. So let's flip the question. Why wouldn't the Celtics trade Peyton Pritchard and a second-round pick to acquire Achiuwa now, while his value is at its lowest? Let's be honest, New York doesn't fully know what to do with Achiuwa. They barely featured him, and now they're overloaded at the wing and front court. Meanwhile, Pritchard gives them exactly what they're missing: a confident, high IQ, high-energy guard off the bench who doesn't disappear in big moments. Everyone wins. And yet, no one sees it coming. Here's what most people won't tell you. Precious Achiuwa is not a big in the traditional sense. He's not a shot blocker like Mitchell Robinson or a stretch big like Porzingis. He's something more dangerous. A defensive shapeshifter. At 6'8" with a 7'2" wingspan, he can switch onto guards, contest wings, and bang with centers, all within the same possession. He's one of the few players in the league who can credibly cover all 5 positions. How many Celtics players can do that right now? None. Not even close. That alone makes him worth the gamble. Still think he doesn't produce? Let's talk context. Yes, he averaged just 6.6 points last season, but context matters. He was buried in a crowded Knicks rotation behind Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart, all players with overlapping skill sets and positional overlap. He had no consistent role, no rhythm, no trust. Yet when given a stretch of consistent minutes, especially in Toronto the season before, he averaged 9.2 points, 6.0 rebounds, 1.1 stocks, steals plus blocks, all while being a menace in transition and a reliable switch defender. In Boston, where the Celtics need exactly those attributes to survive the Tatum drought, Achiuwa becomes something different, a Swiss Army knife that unlocks smaller lineups and helps cover for Porzingis' defensive lapses without sacrificing athleticism. Here's the hidden brilliance in this scenario. Unlike the Nick Richards trade, this deal preserves Boston's most valuable chip, the number 28 pick. Why is that so important? Because the Celtics aren't just fighting to stay afloat now. They're playing a double game, contending today and building for tomorrow. Keeping that pick allows them to draft a project player who can develop slowly, learn the system, and be ready to contribute by the time Tatum is fully healthy and the core is back in championship form. In other words, you get Achiuwa's defensive motor now and a long-term asset for 20, 26, 27, 2 timelines, 1 move.